Hi Year 8 students, this is Mr. Trio, and I'd like to provide a short introduction video to our first semester project, which is creating a kiosk display. I hope this video is useful, and of course if you have any questions, please see me afterwards. Thank you. Before we begin, I think one of the most important questions is, what is the difference between a presentation and a kiosk? Think about a presentation as being like a PowerPoint slide presentation that you've seen very often. In many ways, a PowerPoint presentation doesn't give the user any choice. Essentially, it's one direction. You go from first slide, the second slide, the third slide, to the fourth slide, and so on. It's possible perhaps that you could turn around and go backwards, but essentially the person who's watching the display doesn't have any control over what content that they learn about. However, imagine a kiosk, and I'm sure that you come in contact with kiosks all the time, whether it's at a train station, a restaurant, or even a clothing store. Think of a kiosk in which the user is at the center, and they choose whether they want to talk about or learn about A, B, C, D, E, or F, or any combination of those different things. When creating a kiosk presentation, there are several aspects that we're going to focus on in this video. The first is wireframes. The second is action buttons. The third is creating kiosk settings. And then finally, PowerPoint show settings. For this project, we will be using PowerPoint as our software to create our kiosk display. I'm going to go through each of these four individual items individually. Now, one of the things that I'd like you to know and put in perspective is that I have a lot of experience working with kiosk. And in particular, I just recently finished a project which was a partnership with HSBC. This was an exhibition which was known as Made in Hong Kong, and one aspect of the exhibition is that there were these large displays and boxes full of all kinds of stuff. But one of the things that the bank said that they were concerned about is that with so many boxes and some of them being very high, how were people going to know what was in the boxes and what type of information could they find out about it? Well, essentially, I created a display, which you can see here at the front of the box, in which the individual could use a touch screen to go to specific boxes to learn more about them. Before I began working on this particular digital display, I had to create wireframes. This is the actual wireframe in which I used for the Made in Hong Kong exhibition. Essentially, it is a blueprint to let the programmers understand what you want it to do. Boxes that are highlighted in red, for example, are essentially functions. If you touch this box, it will lead to a second level. If you touch those boxes over there, it will lead to the first level. Essentially, it allows the navigation of one area to the other. So once again, this is not following slide 1 to slide 2 to slide 3. It is the user who decides which choices to make. Action buttons are a very important part of any kiosk display, and they are often used in ways in which people look at the icon and immediately understand what the action button does. For example, they may send the user forward or back. You can go to the first slide, the last slide. There's often a home button. There are some slides that emit sounds, and there are custom buttons. For example, on our display earlier, each of the pictures which was on the display was an action button that sent you to a different location. Now what I've done here is created a very simple design. You may notice there's really nothing fancy about it. It's just basically black and white, and it's composed of 5 slides. But essentially what I want to do with this particular presentation is show you how to install the action buttons into your program. Now, here on the home page, this is considered the first hierarchy, or H1. And on the home page, it will give you access to details pages 1 or details pages number 2. So how do we install an action button into this particular presentation? Well, you essentially go to the Insert button, you go to Shapes, and all the way at the bottom, you will see Action Buttons. So let's use this information icon as our action button. So we're going to install it next to our details page, and something will click in which it says, what do you want it to hyperlink to? And we want it to hyperlink to a particular slide, which is the details page. Once you do that, press OK, OK, and the button is live. Now, one of the things that will be a part of creating this kiosk is saving the information in a different way than a PowerPoint presentation. You have to go to the slideshow tab in PowerPoint and go to Setup Show. The second thing you'll need to do is indicate that you want it be browsed at a kiosk. So when an individual opens this program, essentially it gives you a full display, and it also does not allow the user to use keys that essentially exit the program out. It only allows it to be followed according to the action buttons that you put into the program. PowerPoint Show is also another setting in which you need to do in order to make the program work the way that you want it to. And this is done essentially under the File tab, and it's called Save As. Instead of choosing PowerPoint Presentation, you choose PowerPoint Show. Now, once again, these are minor things, and I'll work with people in class to do this, but these are important things that need to be a part of your presentation in order for it to work properly on the screen. Now, one of the biggest challenges of this project is that you need to come up with some type of idea for a kiosk. Now, I know this can be a little difficult, so let me give you some ideas. For example, you could do a kiosk which is about menu items, and you could use pictures of food in order to have as action buttons to take you to a second level to learn out more about what these different food items are. You could do like a catalog for looking at clothing. Each one of these dresses could have different types of information about it. You could do it on movies that you like, or you could do it on football players that you like. Once again, the possibilities are endless, but you will need at some point early on in this project to come up with some type of idea. And I'll work with you directly if you're struggling with what idea to come up with. The important thing with this project is to have fun, but I want you to take this seriously and think about the design and the functionality. There are 3 main components of this project which you will be graded on. The first is you need to set up a wireframe in order to create the navigation of your kiosk. The second requirement is that each page that you have has at least 1 action button. And then last but not least, you need to create 3 levels of hierarchy, which means that you need to have like a home page, a details page, and then a subheadings page. We'll work on this more in class again, specifically when we start working on our wireframes and how your kiosk will work. I'm going to have some examples of different kiosks and also show you how to install action buttons into your program. Now, as many of you know, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so for the purposes of this class, I've created this presentation, which will be available on our website to download, and you can take a look at it a little closer. But essentially, the way that I created this kiosk display is that each of these 8 photographs is an action button. And if you want to know more about, let's say, the Tusken Raider, you click the photo of that person, and here he is. This is the second hierarchy. And then you can learn a little bit about the Tusken Raider, which was an important character in the first Star Wars film. And if you want to know more about the character in the movies, then you press the movie's icon, and it takes you to a third page. This is third hierarchy. You want to close out that's fine. And if you want to go back to the home page, you just press the Death Star logo. Once again, this kiosk display is on our website, and you can download it in the classroom and go through it a little closer if you want to.